Hi, so today we are going to talk about arm shapes. This is not port-de-bras. Port-de-bras is the way that you move your arms in between the classical, codified steps, positions. So we have to make sure we hit those. Port-de-bras is how you move from position to position with the arms. We are only talking about the arm shape. The reason that getting clarity in your arm shape is so important is because it's one shape. There's one shape for your arms in classical ballet. It's this one. The shape is not what changes. It's the orientation inside your shoulder joint. So once you have the correct shape, you can put it in front of you, you can lower it, you can bring it high, you can bring it to the side. But the shape of the arm doesn't change. That's the one shape that we're working on today. We're also only working on the arm shape, the relationship of the humerus, the upper arm bone, the radius and ulna, the two bones in the lower arm, and then the carpals, the wrist bones. We're not dealing at all with the shoulder blade. Okay, and the reason that I'm not touching that is because I know very good teachers who like a little bit of retraction in the shoulder blade. They feel like it opens up through here, through the collarbones. And I know teachers who they use the upside down technique. This is not a good top for shoulder blades, but they think bring the shoulder blade up to the side and down, and that's where they like the shoulder blade held. And then I also know teachers that liked students to think about the shoulder blade wrapping around into the armpit. I know I said I wasn't going to get involved in that particular squabble. The third is my least favorite, because when you wrap the shoulder blade around, we collapse through the chest. It's very hard to look not slouchy. So I'm not a fan of hugging the shoulder blades into the armpits, but whether you are a retract or an upside down person, that's your thing to do. I am only talking about the arm shape. We're asking the arm to do something it wasn't as efficiently designed for. This is not beyond the realm of what the arm can do. Each of the joints involved does have that range of motion safely available, but the body was designed to move efficiently, and that is not an efficient range of motion. That's not an efficient way to hold your arms. It's unusual. It's not instinctive for anybody. It uses muscles that we don't usually use. It's also hard because it requires a lot of core work. If you're going to be all slouchy, none of this is going to look right anyway. And I think the core part is the part that gets forgotten. When we go into classes and we look at students and we think, oh my gosh, I need to fix the arms, you need to fix the alignment and the way they're standing first, because alignment is the foundation. And if we don't have those strong core muscles and that really solid core support, you can do whatever you want with the arms. It's not going to look right because it isn't right. We need to start with the strong core and then fix the arm shapes. So it takes a lot of strength, core strength, arm strength. It takes a lot of work. There is a progression you can take your students through to make sure that they are ready, which makes this shape less awful. Once did a Nutcracker where we were supposed to be on stage when the curtain rose for Act 2, and we were standing in a second position, and every single rehearsal, they made us stand there for the entire overture. And then we stood there for the first 2 minutes of the dance before we got to move. Yeah, my arms got really strong. I think that was a waste of time, because their whole thought was what if the curtain opens early? Well, that particular curtain rose from the bottom. So this was just mean. So how do we build the strength without being mean? First thing to do is to make sure that your students can dance with their hands on their hips. And can they hold them on their hips while they move? A lot of kids, when they get to skipping, need the momentum of their arms to help them because their core isn't strong enough yet. So can they move? Can they do their pliés with their hands glued to their hips? Can they do their grand battements with a step forward with their hands glued to their hips? Can they skip? Can they keep them there? This is the first thing. When they can reliably keep their hands glued to their hips, actually touching their hips, the next progression in building strength is fingers to shoulders. It's going to be here at first because they're not accustomed to holding that upper arm straight out. So that's the next thing. When they have enough strength to keep the upper arm lifted, elbows out, this is going to look like a letter T. When they have that strength, the next progression is to come into your first. When they can hold their first position reliably, like 90% of the time, then you can start challenging them to holding their arms in second position. I would not just make it a, can you stand here? This is miserable. Dance should not be miserable, but we can spend more time moving with arms in big shapes after we have built the strength. Step 1, step 2, step 3, then step 4. So let's talk a little bit about the history of the arm shapes. They haven't changed a whole lot. The rounded arm preparation for a pirouette, where you have one arm in front and the other out and both arms are round, that's been around since 1645. And all of the classical arm shapes, whatever you want to call them, fifth low, first, fifth high, second, third, fourth, whatever you want to call them, those numbered positions had all been set before 1715. 1715, by the way, is when Louis XIV died. So we've had these arms around since about 1700, set as round shapes. Why does it have to be that way? The answer in a nutshell is tradition, but there are a couple of really, really major contributors. First thing to remember is that in the beginning of ballet, at Versailles, Louis XIV's court, Louis XV, Louis XVI, like as we go on, unembellished was equated with poverty. And the point of ballet originally was to solidify your place in the social structure and to demonstrate how much wealth you had. So if we just stuck our arm out like a plain, like a just, bloop, here it is, this is what arms do, they are unembellished, they are poor, they are not a way to signify wealth and refinement. Another thing to keep in mind is that in really, really early choreography, the kind of stuff that hasn't survived, characters that were associated with negative traits like dishonest characters or the villain or uneducated characters, things that were looked down upon by the aristocracy, they would use really angular arm shapes. They would get to have bends in their joints. The characters that portrayed characteristics that the court or the power structure wanted to support had round, graceful movement and arm shapes. So the rounded arm shape had all kinds of moral judgments associated with it. We couldn't be poor, we couldn't be unvirtuous. So we have these weird rounded arm shapes. Then we move into Carlo Blasi's, who wrote The Court of Terpsichore. Fun fact, I've been saying Terpsichore wrong my whole life. I Googled it, it's Terpsichore. Anyway, Blasius was a really well-known ballet master, dancer, choreographer. He published this in 1831. It's thick. There's a lot in here. But in this, he talks a lot about how important it is to have round, smooth arm movements. When Blasius wrote his ideas down, he did not mention the use of angular arm shapes to portray different kinds of characters. That idea was gone. Arms always had to be round. According to Carlo Blasius, if the arms aren't round, the arms aren't correct. Obviously, there's an exception in arabesque. Arabesque is the exception to everything, and we can do a whole other video about that. But arabesque during the Romantic era was not established. It was new. It was the new evolution in ballet. So the rules where we were like, this applies to all ballet, doesn't apply to arabesque, it's different. Then we move into the early 1900s. I gotta look this one up. I don't even like this book, you guys. 1908, William Hogarth published The Analysis of Beauty. I don't recommend this one. Hogarth wasn't a dancer, wasn't a choreographer, wasn't a dance critic. He was a visual artist. And it is annoying to me that he had so much influence over what Western European and North American aesthetics has valued. I don't like it because he comes in and he's like, this is the way it is. He doesn't justify it. There's like precedent. No, like it just, So this one dude came in and was like, this is the line of beauty. And the line of beauty, it's on the cover. Look, the cover makes it so that you don't have to read the book. Hogarth's line of beauty is a gentle curving S. I'm not sure that physically I can do this, but if you think about the ballet arm with the rotations in it, like this way and then that way and then this way, like this could also be seen as an extension of that gently curving S. It's a very long S, right? Like we don't want the kids to have really small arm shapes, partly because they get angular, and we killed that with Blassie's well before him. Thanks to Hogarth, anything that spirals too closely is not considered refined or beautiful. It has to be an elongated curve. So according to Hogarth, a port-de-bras that opened with a really like a big flourish in the wrist, like this would not be considered beautiful to Hogarth. So if you wanted to incorporate the wrist, which ballet does, and we'll get to that, it needs to be long and subtle in order to comply with what Hogarth has codified as the line of beauty. If it was just his opinion, I wouldn't mention it. But everybody kind of got on that train and was like, yes, great. This is what beautiful is in Western European and North American colonizer aesthetics. Interestingly, Hogarth's justification, look, the academic standards were just a lot lower. Hogarth's justification for why this elongated S is the line of beauty is that in his interpretation, nature has no straight lines. I could go outside of my house right now and there are mountains that were created by earthquakes and have not eroded yet, and there are some straight lines in those mountains. If I go south to southern Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, that area, you have these beautiful plateaus. Those have straight lines and straight lines. Those are absolutely nature made. But in his part of the world, apparently he did not find any naturally occurring straight lines. So Hogarth had a lot more influence than I think he should have had. Refined society decided that he was right, and he upheld the already established lines. So with that information, you can see why like the work of Nijinsky and Nijinsky in like Rite of Spring, Les Noces, like the stuff that the Ballet Russes were doing where they were using angularity in their choreography was so revolutionary. We have hundreds of years of people dancing with the curved arm shapes. We have hundreds of years of people writing about the importance of the curved arm shapes. And then you have this massively influential small group of avant-garde dancers in like the 1920s-ish who just toss all that out the window. But it came back in the window. So we have Gail Grant. Gail Grant created a dictionary. It's the Technical Manual and Dictionary of Classical Ballet. This is a very common book. Most people have it. And when she talks about arm shapes, she talks about the rounded arm shapes. So even in the 1950s, we only have round arm shapes. I don't think the round ballet arm is going anywhere. It's just part of the classical aesthetic. It came from some questionable places. I don't think a gently curving arm is any more morally virtuous than a bent elbow, but you know, this is where we're at. So there's your historical lesson. There's your ballet context for the day. Bottom line, The round arm shape has been a part of ballet since the late 17th century, which would be the late 1600s, and has been reinforced by every generation since. And no, I didn't forget about allongé. Allongé means lengthened, not lift. But you still need the classical round shape because you need the elongated S curve to lengthen. If you choose to add a lift, like that's happens all of the time, but the lengthen needs to happen either first or as a part of it. And even in that, we haven't fully straightened. We still are keeping most of the S curve, most of the roundness, and making it longer through the wrist. We tend to keep a little bit of softness and roundness in the shoulder and the elbow in an allongé, even though the wrist is fully lengthening, so that the arm shape looks related to the other arm shapes that we're doing. So we've talked about why a clear and well-established classical arm shape is important in ballet training. Let's get into my favorite way to teach it. I did not come up with this. I learned this from a teacher named Cindy Ricaldi back in 1998, and I have been using it ever since and crediting her ever since. It's kind of genius. Here we go. You're gonna be a mouse. Somebody decided that this is ballet code for mouse. And then you're a chicken, and then you're a dragon. I think Cindy Ricaldi called this something else, but I forgot. So I call this dragon. And then you open to your second position, and you're a dancer. So I'm going to scooch to the side so that you can see one arm do the full range of motion. So you're a mouse, chicken, dragon, dancer. There are a couple of reasons why this works so well. The first reason is because it's fun. This is so much more fun than standing like this for 2.5 minutes every Saturday rehearsing Nutcracker. That sucked. Mouse, chicken, dragon, dancer. It's fun. It's easy to remember. It's the kind of thing that people can do when they start warming up. I have a lot of adult students who will just do a couple mouse, chicken, dragon dancers before class starts to remind themselves how it feels. It also gets the upper arm into that super difficult place to be. When you ask someone to rotate their upper arm inwardly, usually they try to bring the whole shoulder girdle with it, and this is not the look we're going for. Like, how do we help someone stay open through here and forward in the upper arm? This helps with that a lot. It's the dragon part of this that is so useful. So you're in your mouse, then you go to your chicken, and then your dragon gets that rotation. It's over-rotated here. You'll notice that my shoulder is over-rotated. And then when we pull the wrist sideways, that will correct. So we start here. You keep this to go into your mouse. But second position has the arm open, so then your chicken takes you to the side. Your dragon rotates you back in, over-rotates, and that's fine. And then your dancer completes the line. There's a lot of movement happening inside the shoulder joint there. And then it almost feels like magic, the way, ta-da, you're in that shape that was so stinking hard before. There's another part of this that you can't see from the front that is a big part of why this is successful, and it has to do with alignment. Think back. Remember how I said you need to have alignment and core strength before you can really finesse the arms? Mouse, chicken, dragon, dancer also works with the alignment. So from the side, when the kids are a mouse, they're gonna get really, really hunched over. I say kids, I mean everybody. You're gonna get really, really hunched over. When you're a chicken, you're gonna get really, really forward in the front. When you're a dragon, the spine naturally settles in an S curve that isn't exaggerated in either direction, and then you maintain it when you turn into a dancer. I'm a big believer in relax and play into the positions, and then practice those positions so that they become habit. We can play into the correct shape and then point it out. It's a lot more successful. Part of the genius in Mouse, Chicken, Dragon, Dancer is that it exaggerates shapes so that the really weird ballet shape that we want feels like the happy medium. That's magic. It's so, so cool. It's pretty common to find that students don't have as much strength in their classical arm shape as you would like. And it's hard to build the strength. The temptation is to just be like, hold it there for the whole exercise, but that hurts and it's not fun. And if it hurts and it isn't fun, people don't keep doing it. One of the ways that I found that really, really builds a lot of strength is after we've done our bar, we come to the center. Instead of doing a small adagio or traditional port de bras exercise, I'll have the kids sit down. They get very excited. They get very excited that I'm asking them to sit in class. They think what we're about to do is going to be easy. Haha, that's their mistake. It's not. But they're sitting, so at least their feet don't hurt. I ask them to sit in a shape that is comfortable for them, where they can sit tall through the waist. I'm not interested in building strength with slouching. For me, it's crisscross applesauce. Some kids like to kneel. I don't allow kids to do that W sit, which I might be too old to do. Ugh, this one. I don't allow kids to do this even if it doesn't hurt. When the kids are in this W sit, it tilts their pelvis and they can't be tall and lifted through their waist. So that's one that I don't allow. I don't like when they sit like a mermaid because we're not working both sides of the body evenly, but a generally symmetrical seated shape, tall through the waist. And then I do get a slow-ish to slow adagio or port de bras song. And then from there, we do it together. You're a mouse for two, and a chicken for two, and a dragon for two, and a dancer for two. Then you're a swan, and two, and three, and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we do 4 sets of that. When they are building strength, they're gonna wanna take their swan down into the water. They're gonna wanna swim because it's easier. But we don't hold a second position arm that low. We're trying to build the strength to hold the arm up. Really encourage them to be going straight out from their shoulders, straight out from their armpits, so that they develop that strength. And if they end up with their arms like way behind them where we're never gonna put a second position, that's okay for right now. Another fun thing that you can do with this little strength combination, if you've got a class that's feeling really chatty, you can let them make the sounds. So squeak, 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 bok, bok. Dancers are quiet. Swans are quiet. They get to vocalize a little bit. They get to feel silly. By the way, like that one, if I do this for like 4 classes in one day, I do not have a voice the next day, but I don't know what other sound a dragon would make. Somebody clue me in. Later in class, when they're chatting, you can be like, wait, there's not a sound that goes with dancer. Instead of being like, I need you to stop talking again. Just be like, hang on, those are dancer arms. We don't talk for dancer arms. Win-win. Strong arms, ballet manners. I think it's a win. Not only is the classical arm shape an important foundation, it's also something that I come back to again and again and again. Like in level 2, we really, really solidify it. And then in level 4, we need it because we're gonna play with it with the allongé. And then in level 5, I sneak it in again. The pliés that I give my level 5 kids challenges them to really demonstrate that they understand the classical arm shape and that they can move out of it and back into it. So here's the plie that I do with level 5. Second position arms. Right, so already we start in the classical shape. Demi-plie, they're gonna rotate inside the shoulder. The elbow doesn't collapse. We keep the elongated S. Rotate in the shoulder and tilt the head with it and come back. Second demi-plie, we go under, but the arm doesn't move. It's an illusion that happens in the head because if the arm moves, the shoulder comes up. right? So we're really helping the kids understand and explore how we create illusions depending on our eye line, the tilt of our head, and how important it is to know where your shoulder girdle is. So you have demi-plie and stretch, and demi and stretch, and then we have an élongé into their grand plie. This builds on everything that we've done already. They need to have the core strength and the correct alignment and the sense of aplomb. Those are the things that we work on in levels 1, 2, and 3. So that in level 4, they can add the épaulement, the tilt of the head, the play through the general shoulder area. Level 5, we add arm movement to make sure that they're understanding that on a deeper level. So there you have it. Classical ballet has one arm shape. We change the orientation in the shoulder joint. I've shown you my favorite trick for how to teach it. I hope that it really helps you help your students. If you would like monthly teaching tips and artistry insight, I do have a monthly newsletter. You can go to my website, geekyballerina.com, and sign up for that there. And I hope you have a really, really great class.